It's an email breakdown.
Email's not dead.
Okay, here we go. Welcome, friends. Hello. We are back with another episode of Email Breakdown. It's the show where I normally break down inspirational email works, sometimes with a buddy, sometimes not. But today, I'm throwing the normal format out the window because I'm here with my friend King Tsang. So today, we're going to be breaking down MarTechFest, which is a conference that we both attended. It happened from the 6th to 8th September. Kind of feels like a fever dream, but it was only a week ago now. It happened in Utrecht, which is an hour away from Amsterdam by train, which is how I got there. So, yes, hi, Making!
Hi, Nash. How are ya?
I'm good, thank you. I'm glad we're both bringing the energy. We're both very energetic people, so I think people will be energized after this session. But yes, for friends at home, would you mind introducing yourself and what you do?
So my name is King Tsang, as you quite rightly said. My first name is King, and I call myself the FOMO creator. FOMO means the fear of missing out, and in business, it's a good thing. So I am hired to create the buzz, the excitement, the FOMO live on social media. That's what I'm hired to do.
Okay, and so FOMO, fear of missing out, is definitely something we've all felt. And it's your job to create it. Like, I mean, what an amazing thing. So this just goes to show how different MarTech Fest was to any other conference I've attended. I think Andrew and Nelly, who are the team, the crew at Email Expert who organized it, I think they always try really hard to do something that's different, something that's, a little bit like not super corporate. I don't know if you agree with that as well.
Without a doubt. I mean, Andrew had been lurking on my stuff for a while and he got it. He knew exactly what I was trying to achieve for events and conferences because he used to do it for himself. But because he's expanded, he knew that he needed to hire someone that he could trust to do that on his behalf. But yeah, he is all about fun,
Yeah.
but professionalism as well. And that's what I absolutely loved about MarTech Fest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a tightrope for sure. I think that line between professionalism and fun, but I feel like that was absolutely, we were in the pocket. We were in the zone there at my Tech Fest. So to set the scene for everyone at home, so like I said, it was a conference that happened in Utrecht, and it was 3 days of speakers. It was jam packed, the schedule as well. It was back to back, just like speakers sharing their insights about everything from email, because obviously it is organized by Email Experts, so there was going to be lots of email content, but it was a lot of really useful B2B. There was even SEO content as well. So I think it was fairly holistic. Actually, there was like little bits that everyone could enjoy and learn from. And I mean, we've stated that you are the FOMO creator, but like, can you get into the nitty gritty of like what exactly your role was there?
So I was hired to live tweet on behalf of Andrew and Nelly for MarTech Fest and Festival of Email, and also do interviews of the speakers, sponsors, and any of the attendees who wanted an interview, with the whole idea of getting that content published onto LinkedIn. And in creating that content live, it means that you can't, add a filter to it. You can't edit it. It is real raw right now to show the perfect example of what an incredible conference should look like. And that's exactly what I did. And that's what Andrew and Nelly hired me for.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Also, I feel like one of your unofficial things that you did there was just bringing the sunshine. Bringing the
Oh,
sunshine. So what a lot of people don't realize about conferences is like a lot of the important stuff that happen in conferences don't happen at the conference itself. It happens at, like meetings people have outside of it, dinners, lunches, what have you. And at the places where we network, certainly where we hung out quite a lot together, we ended up hanging out together quite a lot. I think you were just there to like bring like just a sense of like warmth and, I don't know, friendship and community. So I would definitely say that's one of the things you brought with you as well.
oh, thanks, Nelly. Naj, sorry. Called you Nelly then.
She's here with us in spirit. She's here. Yeah.
Yes. again, that's down to Nellie and Andrew. They hired the correct person to not only be the FOMO creator, but the community builder and pom pom waver. I mean, one of the great things that they did was they didn't have a hierarchy of speakers, sponsors, and attendees. They brought everybody in. So, anyone who attended the conference in person, because it was a hybrid conference, they allowed there was an online element to it as well.
Mhm.
But to make the people who attended in person, make them feel extra special, they created an extra community for them. And so there were friends being made, there was networking happening within that group. And so I sort of helped a little bit more because I know what it's like to be part of a group like a Facebook group, Slack channel, WhatsApp group. It can be a little bit intimidating for someone who may be not part of that industry or is an introvert. So
Mhm.
by showing up and inviting people to be part of it and doing those, inviting people, if you want a bit of publicity for your business,
Yeah.
do come and find me so I can interview you and so on. And one of the attendees did eventually come over and say hello to me, but only because she saw me a few times within that group. And that's something that Andrew and Nellie created, which was amazing. That group was so integral and really important in making it feel like a Martech festival community, not just a conference that had lots of people in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, so I was there as a speaker, but as a speaker, I was also there to attend as well and learn from other people. I also put my hand up to MC, which we can talk about in a little bit. But in embodying those different roles, it was really cool to see how, I was almost like observing people as well when I was there. And it was really nice to see how people were just mixed in together, and it didn't matter whether there were sponsors or attendees or speakers. Everyone was just, it was a real jambalaya of people. So yeah, it was really great. So, well, first of all, what I'd love to get into is overall impressions. So what were your overall impressions? Like, what do you think were the big themes of MarTech Fest?
So it's so funny then. When you said impressions, my default panicked. I thought, oh gosh, I need to put up that Twitter report up. How many people it reached?
How many people saw this? How many eyeballs?
Yeah,
Quick!
retweets.
That marketer panic. Yeah. No, not today. We are not doing data today. No, thank you.
My first impressions of the conference was, oh my goodness, how professional it was, how amazing it was. Who'd have thought that although Andrew and Nellie have created conferences many times before, who'd have thought that this was their first one in Utrecht? Because the location was amazing
Oh, it was. Yeah.
and the theme was just so on brand. It was so it was just I just couldn't I was just so amazed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in Kineopolis, which is a cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what do you do when you go to a cinema? You watch films. So the sponsors were ads in the cinema which had film features of the sponsors. I mean, how creative and how genius is that? I would have loved to be a fly on the wall with Andrew and Nelly as they were thinking, okay, we want to make our sponsors feel extra special. What can we do? And then one of them had the idea to create a film poster, and all of them had film posters. So the first thing that you saw when you walk in was these film posters. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Then you go up the stairs, you see you see the big banner and the rolling banner, which is a video screen of all the speakers, the sponsors, the attendees, the dates, and so on. So you're walking up the escalators or going up the stairs if you're extra healthy. It was just so professional, and that's what made it so unique and so incredible. And then you walk into the refreshments area. You can get some popcorn if you want to, because it's a cinema at the end of the day. And then you've got the exhibition space. And of course, the exhibition space is like most exhibition spaces. However, because it was so open and everyone was there, There was lots of seating areas, lots of areas that you can go and have one-to-one conversations with. There were breakout areas as well, which is really important for people who want to have a quiet one-to-one with people. And then there were the actual conference rooms themselves, and they were actual cinema rooms. I mean, again, absolute genius. Loved it. That was my first impression. So amazing.
Yeah, I think I really loved how they leaned into the location to really fill out the experience. So like you said, the film posters were really funny. They
Yeah.
were like, yeah, they were the sponsors each designed their own film poster, and that's what you saw. And I really love the fact that I've never been to a conference that took place at a cinema, and so it was really quite something to see like these huge screens normally dedicated to watching films on, which are like the presentations from each of the speakers. It was really like, wow, you had that real wow effect. And yeah, I think it was a really, oh man, those seats were so comfortable as well. Can I just say, the amount of conference I've been to where it's just been like a wooden chair and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, I'm not really feeling this right now. But you were just like, oh yeah, this is great. So
But
yeah,
again,
yeah.
that is the pure genius of Andrew and Nelly, because with conferences, some conferences, you had to use those, those tactics to keep people awake at all
Mm,
times,
mm,
keep the room cold, uncomfortable seating
mm.
so that you concentrate on the speakers. But because of the caliber of the speakers, and I'm including yourself, Naj,
Oh, thank you.
because of the caliber of the speakers, it didn't matter that the seats were so comfortable, because you were never going to fall asleep, because the information that was given to us was just so amazing. And because they were in short segments, and everyone was respectful of everyone's time,
Mm-hmm.
they stuck to the timetable. It meant that everyone had an incredible time. They shared all the incredible golden nuggets of information in such comfortable settings. So again, honestly, I could not have done a better conference. Like I actually said this to a friend of mine. If I imagined, I actually said it on a podcast, if I imagined the best possible conference that you could have, Andrew and Nelly have definitely topped my, top 10 charts of conferences, because they just balance the professionalism, the expertise of the speakers, the branding, giving the sponsors, speakers, attendees so much love. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they're so hands-on as well. Like they were just like really busy, really on it. So yeah, I can't praise them enough. I like them a lot. They're good people.
Yeah.
In terms of like the actual content, my overall impressions of like the big themes that everyone was talking about, I think there were three main keywords, which I think are going to be, top of mind for the next year, the next 5 years. But I felt that lots of people were talking about collaboration. I felt lots of people were talking about trust. So there were a lot of things around security and email deliverability, and that really all comes down to trust. And then I think the final thing was that branding is going to be big. So, in this kind of generative AI world we're living in, like in this very content heavy world we're living in, and like content was kind of content is everywhere anyway, even before generative AI, just is like scaled it up massively. Branding is going to be one of those things that businesses need more than ever, to need to invest in more than ever, to really cut through the noise. And yeah, I think those were like three of the main things. But you got a smattering of like, going through different things. But like, what do you think were like the main themes there?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Definitely all of those, but not only that, because although it was three conferences in one, wasn't it? It
Mm-hmm.
was B2B and email and technology and
Mm-hmm.
AI.
Mm-hmm.
One of the consistent themes across some of the talks were really that we need to branch out beyond the email, but get departments within the same company to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was something that I thought was really, really interesting, because there's no point having, an amazing social media, um, campaign if the same message isn't echoed in your email, and vice versa. And, the other theme was being omnipresent, and
Mm-hmm.
you can only be omnipresent if there is a consistent theme across all the channels,
Mm-hmm.
email, direct marketing, social media. So that was something else that was iterated time and time again about the importance of departments to talk to each other, which I know that in a large company it can be challenging at times, but if you don't do it, there will be effectively a broken link,
Mm-hmm.
and we are there to service customers. So if our customers are not are annoyed at one aspect, one channel they sought, and then try to go to another channel and do not get the same message, they're going to switch off and go to your competitor. So I think that was something that I noticed as well in some of the talks.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was something that I really wanted to just remember, just be part of my, I guess, like marketing philosophy, this idea of being very collaborative, being very holistic. Not that I wasn't before, but I think it's really more important than ever for people to think about now. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit. So I thought we could talk about like what happened each day and just kind of curate, our favorite things about each day. Also, obviously for friends at home, I'm much more of a branding person, positioning person, designer type person. So the stuff that I curate is going to be from that perspective, from that frame. But I definitely know that there were so many great things about deliverability, so many great things about coding and development. But this is very much like my what I took in and the things that really stuck out to me. So all right, are you ready to get into it, Maggie?
Sure.
Okay, so day one, we had a really lovely keynote opening by Udemy, from who's the postmaster at LinkedIn, and it was just so warm. It was a really nice way to kick things off, and basically, he was talking about like the magic of the community in marketing. That's what I took away from it. And there was some great back and forth between him and Richard, who was also an MC as well. So they were like this really great double act at the beginning. So and also fun fact, Udemy, he introduced himself as Carlton, as in Carlton from Fresh Prince. When I first met him, I knew who he was, and I was like, "What is happening right now?" It was really funny. So yeah, that was like a great start to the day. Kath Pei from Holistic, I think Holistic Email, sorry if I've got this wrong, but she had this really great talk about using generative AI and combining that with persuasion strategies. So, and that you can use for A/B tests. So basically, the whole concept was that you can use the persuasion strategies from Robert Cialdini's book Influence, and you can use them as prompts to kind of frame your whatever your output is in different ways, whatever you're prompting in your generative AI of your choice in different ways. So I thought that was really interesting as well. It was a cool take on how you can use ChatGPT or whatever. And then Beata, she did this really cool sci-fi take on the quest to cookieless. So marketing it, we're definitely moving towards a cookieless future, if not a cookieless present. And basically, what that means is that lots of legislation, lots of policies are moving now towards tech not tracking you as much as they used to. So I know Google Chrome, it definitely moved that way. I wouldn't be surprised if everyone just followed that very very soon. And so I think that just drove home the point of like marketing. We need to be all about the trust and also all about the branding as well, right? This quest for cookieless, because we need people to trust us enough to give their information, like the email address and their names and all of that stuff. And also, our branding needs to cut through to these people in the first place. So those were like the standout things for me. And I emceed in the afternoon. It was my first time emceeing anything, and so I was a bit nervous. I think my thing was that I was most surprised by is like how switched on you have to be as an MC, because you really have to try and respect the schedule. So you have to try and keep everyone on time. But yeah, what were your standout things for you on the first day?
Well, I'm gonna give you a massive shout out
Oh,
because I was really nervous about being an MC as well. And when I watched you, I thought, oh my goodness, drop the mic, come out of here. You were so
Oh
amazing
my god.
because you really were. Because, of course, after lunch, in training circles, we call it the graveyard shift. People are starting to fall asleep, the food is settling in.
Yeah.
And so you used a strategy which was just amazing to try and get a bit of energy back into the room. You actually sang a little song and and invited the attendees who didn't have broken legs, because I think there were a few with crutches,
Yes.
that if they heard a word with starting with the letter B, to stand up and sit down. And I absolutely loved it. And because I'm quite intuitive as a FOMO creator, fortunately, I did capture that footage. It was hilarious and I was laughing, but it was great because people were laughing, but the energy came back in the room, and it was a bit of exercise for everyone after lunch. So I don't know if you want to do a little rendition of that song, Nash.
Yeah, so this song really sneaks up on you. So some people know me from like playing ukulele at past conferences, and so I knew some people were like, "Oh, you didn't bring your ukulele or whatever." I was like, "No, no, I'm not doing that this time." But it's like, so I was looking out at the crowd, and I was like, "Okay, this is everyone is just like in the comfy seats in the AC, being like, ah." So so I looked out. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna use this trick my English teacher used to use on my class when I was in secondary school." And I was like, okay, who wants to hear me sing? And people were like, okay, yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, all right. Here's the deal: you have to stand up, and then when you hear a B side, you've got to stand up or sit down. And so I went, my Bonnie lies over the ocean, my Bonnie lies over the sea. And you're like, okay, so like people were like, okay, yeah, I mean, this is like no problem. But then it goes to bring back, bring back, bring back my and people are like, oh no. I mean, that was my favorite prank. The ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back, bring back, bring back my Bonnie to me. All right, you get it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Now, with regards to day one, for me, because I was working so intently, day one sort of blurred into day two and day three. So I'm actually going. So I'm actually going to borrow and give a big shout out to Heather, who attended the conference, and she, like me, is outside of the industry, but she wanted to learn it from an email perspective, and she actually wrote a LinkedIn post and gave her takeaways. And so she said on day one, her biggest takeaways were a quote from Aline van der Vorm, who said, "The average person doesn't have to know or care how something works. They just have to be able to tell it's working." And another one of her takeaways is from the fabulous Kath Pay, who you just talked about. And she said there are 7 persuasion principles, and it's our job to use them, not to manipulate, but just to help our audience make a decision, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you. Yes, and we'll definitely put a link to Heather's post in the description as well. But yeah, I think it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, after a while, it's a bit like, oh my god, was it day 2? Was it day 3? Like, what was going? But yeah, so yeah, that was day 1, and then going into day 2, we had, so again, these were like my curated impressions. So Kevin Steva and Sondi Katupawiro, they're they're from Sino, and they have this great product where you can automate your email analytics, right? But Kevin has quickly become one of my favorite people of all time. He is so friendly, so nice. Basically, just like, if like a teddy bear just decided they wanted to be human, like that. I think that's what happened with Kevin. So yeah, so they presented, and I thought they presented this really great thing about how to master marketing OKRs, which was important for any marketing person to know. There was this really cool thing that Andrew and Ellie put into the agenda called the Pitch Fest. So it was basically where different businesses could kind of put their hand up, and then they could do like a 3 minute, like literally an elevator pitch to a room full of people. And we had our friend Keisha, who we met also for the first time in person. I've seen Keisha around on Women of Email, and she's just brilliant. I think she's just super smart and super cool. But I met her for the first time, and she also pitched her business, Email Artisan. So I thought that was a really cool added element to things, because I think that just goes to show that there's a support of smaller businesses or solopreneurs that I really liked. Um, and then finally, we had the documentary at the end of the day, which was very cool, and it was presented by two of the four producers, so Joachim Garro and Frank Martin. It was called Modular California Vibes. And it was about their experience, just a short documentary, 40 minutes. It was their experience of going out into the alien Californian desert. They went to four different places in the solar powered RV, right? And then they produced the four songs in 4 days using these synthesizers, and it was just mind blowing. So yeah, day two. So yeah, what are your thoughts about day two?
Yeah, so I think you picked on some key people there. So both Kevin from Steino and Keisha, they're both set to disrupt the email industry
Yeah.
with their respective businesses. So I actually interviewed Kevin on that. Even for someone who is not from the industry, he, explained it in a way that even I could understand, and it was really, really fascinating. So it's basically getting deep and dirty into the analytics of your email, which apparently you're not able to do on any current platform. So his platform is going to disrupt the industry. And Keisha as well, she's been in the industry for a while. She's got a client at the moment, but she's just, she's a startup. And so when I interviewed with her as well, it was memorable because again, sounds like she's going to be disrupting the market with what she is offering. So you definitely watch out for them, and we can definitely share the interviews there. And Going back to borrowing Heather's LinkedIn post because
Shout
I
out to
can't remember.
Heather. Shout out to Heather. Yes.
Shout out to Heather. One of the themes in Fest was AI. And
Hmm.
so Alan Thorpe was one of the memorable speakers
Yes.
for me as well. And he said that Gen AI is all shouting, not listening.
Hmm.
And so, in order to effectively use AI creative engines, first campaign for better listening
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was really interesting. Um, and He also mentioned Bjorn Kuster and Dennis Gillespie from the Bundesliga.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
success hap- yeah, so success happens because everything happens in house, which keeps controlled, centralized. Content has to be relevant and engaging and tailored to your audience. So I thought that was a really good lesson there. But yes, again, in keeping with the theme of cinema, and we were presented with a premiere viewing of this incredible documentary. It was just so fitting, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic, fantastic experience for us. And you posed some great questions to the creators there, Naj. It was it felt so special, and we felt particularly special because it was a premiere as well.
Yeah, that was really cool. So yes, I put my hand
Mm.
up to moderate the Q&A, and I thought, oh man, it's probably like the end of the evening, a very jam-packed day. I don't know if anyone is going to ask any questions, so I came up with a bunch of questions of my own. So I kicked a few off, and then like so many people were engaged with the documentary, so many people, it just resonated with them. So we had loads of questions from the crowd as well, which was great, and it was a great documentary. I will say though, at some points it did feel like a horror show to me, because I hate any kind of camping. And so the fact that they went out into the desert for people, solar powered, I was like, this is not, it couldn't be me. But I appreciate and I see you, and I love that for you.
But there's no dangerous animals, so they were
Yeah.
perfectly safe where they
Yes.
went. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so that was really interesting too.
Yeah, that's true. I think maybe I just need to be like within like walking distance of like a supermarket, and then I will feel safe. This is on my rider for like future like speaking things. I need to be within walking distance. So anyway, whatever. Maybe I'm bougie. I'm revealing a lot about myself here. So we had the final day, which was the probably for me my most nerve wracking day because it was my presentation. I was also on a panel with the very smart, very cool women. Taylor Raffa from SEMrush, Keisha Anderson of Email Artisan, and it was moderated by Anna Levitine from Powtoon, and we talked about basically the role of email in omnichannel B2B marketing. That was very cool. I really enjoyed that conversation. I think I, as a panelist, got a lot of value just from like hearing from Keisha and Taylor as well. And so in the morning, I think one of the talks that I got a lot of value from was from Riaz Kanani, who was talking about the new B2B buyers. So, okay, so I think one of the biggest kind of mistakes that people make often in marketing is assumptions, right? And when we assume, well, you know how it goes. But well, and it was really refreshing to see a lot of the data that he presented about the new B2B buyers. A lot of millennials, a lot of Gen Z are in the workforce and have been for quite some time now. A lot of these people are making decisions in B2B. It's not who we think it is anymore. And so we have to adapt and be nimble. But yeah, I think with regards to my presentation, I mean, yeah, I mean, as the speaker looking up at the screen, like the huge screen behind me, oh my god, it was something else. I think I had an out of body experience.
Now, I absolutely loved the panel
Hmm.
because again, it takes a really good skilled host to ensure that everybody has had a say in
Hmm.
the panel. And
Hmm.
sometimes egos might get in the way, so one person's more vocal than the other. And now, luckily, there were no egos in that panel,
No.
and I was just really proud as a female to see a whole female only panel as well. And the information that you shared, and Keisha, Taylor, and Anna as well, was just wonderful. So for me personally, I just felt pleased as punch with my new friends that I'd just met. As seeing you all as sisters, really, all on the panel, sharing some great information, lots of things for us to consider. So I absolutely love that, and I also want to go back to to this article again, because one of her biggest takeaways was actually from another chap who I'd met for the first time, and he became a friend because he gifted me this wonderful hat to keep the sun out. So Jordi Van Ryn, who's
Oh,
yeah,
he's
who's
my
not
favorite
related.
person as well.
Yeah, he's not related to Rembrandt van Rijn,
Oh.
but to Jordi van Rijn. He talked about using a beacon goal setting framework, and don't forget to have fun. And he also incorporated Tai Chi into his talk as well, which was incredible. And we also had a fellow Brit from a big hospital in London,
Yes.
Guy's Hospital, and he talked about how markets are only getting more complex.
Hmm.
Success relies on integrating our brand values and solutions. And one particular favorite of mine actually was Pale Aurora. And she said that there is actually innovation happening outside of the West, and remaining ignorant of the next billion users leads to failure. And she cited an incredible example of how Musk has openly said that he wants to create, the WeChat of the West.
Hmm.
So basically, they're looking to a technology that's been around for a gazillion years in China. WeChat is, you can do everything within this platform,
Hmm.
absolutely everything. And all the social media platforms were vying to be that WeChat. Zuckerberg has tried and failed it, and now Musk is trying to do it with X and some other bits and pieces as well. So I absolutely loved Pale's talk there, because quite often in the West, we are in the West bubble,
Hmm.
and we ignore about what's happening elsewhere, and so it was really important for her to illustrate just how much innovation is coming out of India, coming out of China, coming out from the non-Western world, and how the West is actually falling behind now and trying to catch up with Asian community, which I thought was really fascinating. So that was a personal favorite of mine actually on day 3.
That's really interesting. I love going to presentations that just kind of wake you up out of your rut, kind of make you think differently about things, because that's what it's really all about. Going to conferences to get a different viewpoint on something that you think you're familiar with, something that you think you've nailed. But no, absolutely, so that's great. I think one thing. So I'm Singaporean, so I go back to Singapore once a year, and I'm always amazed by like the difference in marketing between where I'm here in Salisbury in the UK, and back home, because so lots of people in Singapore use WhatsApp as their front facing thing for business, which is not something that I've seen here at all. And I think yeah, it's like you say, like WeChat is so big, but we just have no visibility of it over here. So that's going to be really interesting as well. So yeah, so those are all 3 days. But I think I wanted to highlight the extra stuff that Andrew and Ellie did outside of the conference agenda. So they had networking sessions. They organized networking sessions, and they even had the canal tour, which you went on. I wasn't able to go, but I flew off. But yeah, could you tell me a little bit about what happened? I feel a little bit of FOMO.
And you're not the only one who felt the FOMO as well. Some of my fans and followers, they saw the canal trip as well, and they was like, "Oh my gosh, where is Utrecht? I want to go!" But yeah, it was an amazing canal trip just around the city, and so we went past some significant buildings. Andrew and Nellie, because they'd have lived in Utrecht for a few weeks in the lead up to the conference. So they shared their bits and pieces of information that they had acquired, and it was wonderful because we actually rode past some of the places that we went for dinner and drinks. A couple of days before. So it really was wonderful that some of the attendees and sponsors and speakers were all sat together, wives and partners as well for those that were there, all come together on the canal trip, and it was just the most glorious day. It was incredible, and so I captured a bit of footage for it. And as I said, one of my particular friends, she said, "You need to get Utrecht Tourist Board to be you need to be their FOMO creator, because you already gave me FOMO about Utrecht. So we'll have to see if the Tourist Board can get involved in MarTech Fest next year."
Oh, yes, that
But
would be
yeah,
amazing.
that
Yeah,
would be so amazing,
that
right?
would be cool. Yeah, I mean the location. So one thing I will say about the location. So I've never been to the Netherlands. I've never been to Amsterdam. A lot of people had. So
Oh.
I didn't know what to expect. So yeah, it was my first time going straight to Utrecht. And I was like, "Oh my god, it's so convenient. It's such a central location. I could get whatever I needed within walking distance, and the really like quirky little shops around the canal were very cool to just kind of wander about. Lots of great places to eat. We had a great meal at a bistro by the canal. um we actually saw someone jump into the canal. Me, Keisha, and Rich were like, don't do that. Who knows what's in there? But yeah, I mean, yeah, it is not something you see every day. But yeah, there was great stuff around which, and obviously the language barrier, not even a thing. Everyone speaks perfect English over there as well, so don't feel like you need to learn Dutch. Although it is very nice if you can, because I'm sure people would appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, it was I mean, you couldn't get a better, more convenient location for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I did want to give Andrew and Nelly a shout out for, because they took pains to ensure that they got the best speakers, okay, for the conference. And they just happened to be male. They just happen to be female. They just happen to be gay. They just happen to be, um, um, a person of color. They just happen to be Asian, female, all the rest of it. So in the UK, it's become a bit cynical. I don't know if you agree, Naj, how diversity has become a thing where people are clamoring to get people in. Oh, we better get a black speaker. Oh, we better get an Asian speaker. We better, we better do this better just to tick the boxes. And it's become a very cynical thing. Now, in reality, there are incredible speakers out there. You just need to go and look a little bit, guys and girls. And Andrew and Nelly did just that. So, for example, if I just go back to Heather's article again,
Heather's
another
become an
lady,
unofficial producer of this episode.
another
Yeah.
incredible woman. She's got an incredible name and incredible woman. Um, um, and she just happens to be a person of color. That's what I mean. She's just incredible at what she does. And her presentation was amazing, and it was about accessibility.
Hmm.
So her quote was, "The move to digital has worsened economic inequality, and without change, it will get even worse, which is why accessibility matters more than ever." And Miracle Inameti Archibong, her presentation was incredible. And she just happens to be a person of color. And I just want to iterate that so that Andrew and Nelly didn't go out to tick boxes. They just happened to bring the best speakers who just happened to be all those people that we just talked about. And I just wanted to credit Andrew and Nelly for them for this because diversity, equity, and inclusion has just become the in thing that you're supposed to do. But that's not why Andrew Nelly did it. They did it years before it was a thing, and I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've collaborated with Andrew and Nelly for a few years now, and even when I was like kind of like a marketing executive, I didn't have, I wasn't like a head of marketing. I was like very much like still in the beginning stages of my career. They invited me on. They've always been very welcoming, and I would say that like it's unsurprising to me to see conferences where it is just you have the same type of person. It's not very diverse. You don't have that diversity of like perspectives, and that's not been the case in Andrew and Ellie's conferences. So, I mean, big ups to them for that. Yeah, for sure. And everyone brought their A game. It was just there was not a single speaker that I thought, they're saying something
Yeah.
obvious. Yeah, you know, like everyone was great. So let's kind of wrap things up. Let's talk about some actionable things for people to take away from MarTechFest. So what would you like to see more of at future MarTechFest?
Well, given the themes that you talked about, the importance of branding and content, I think that's kind of where I want to go with this. So, this year they had two tracks. So you could go in one room and another. And so it would be nice to go down, maybe another track as well, because you've got the added bonus of it being a hybrid conference where if you don't get to see the sessions in person, you could still nevertheless see them online, and we've got that choice now. So I would love in order for us to be able to have, a company to have the departments talk to each other, well, then in order to be able to talk to each other, they need to have a better appreciation of each other. So, having a digital marketing track for me personally, I think would be great. I've already mentioned to Andrew and Nelly that there is a conference that used to happen in London, and it's no longer around because of the pandemic, I'm guessing. So, there's definitely, you know, an opportunity for them to take all those people that did go to that conference to come into this one if the digital marketing was a part of that a tract on its own. So branding, digital marketing, content, that kind of thing. I think I'd like to see that. And it's not a sexy subject. But, analyzing ROI, statistics, that kind of thing, we definitely need a bit more of that. So, Alex was one of the speakers of the conference and he talked about LinkedIn ads, which was, a great talk. So paid ads, is really important, but we also need to measure as well just to see if it works, the return on investment there. Not just on organic social, but paid social as well. I think having the analytics side of stuff, I think I'd love to see that at MarTech Fest. So, Andrew, Nelly, if you're listening,
These are your tips. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I would love to see more branding, cutting through the noise type stuff. And you're right. I really enjoyed the Sinos presentation because they were bringing data analysis. The dirty secret about marketers, we're expected to be data analysts as well, but we're not necessarily trained in it. And so I think it's always something that's going to be valuable to marketers for sure. Yeah, so yeah, I absolutely, I would love to see more of that content. So what top tips would you give to newbies going to MarTech Fest or even conferences just in general?
yeah. So, believe it or not, newbies, there's more introverts than there are extroverts. And I, for one, I'm actually an ambivert. So sometimes, I'm the belle of the ball and I make sure that everyone's, okay and so on. And sometimes I'm an introvert and I need a little coaxing as well. So for a newbie, don't be afraid to go and talk to someone. They're not going to bite your head off.
Yeah.
Chances are they will really appreciate you going over to them and saying hello. And chances are you'll have met a fellow introvert, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be shy. Everyone's in it together,
Mm-hmm.
and if they don't know the answer to your question, I'm sure that they will find someone to answer that question for you. Generally, when you go to a conference, people have traveled and they're taking time out their day to learn and invest in themselves. So because they are learning and investing in themselves, they will want to meet new people,
Mm-hmm.
so don't
Mm-hmm.
be afraid to go and approach people. And equally, for those people who are seasoned, attendees, especially for us at MarTech Fest next year, we'll be like MarTech Fest alumni. Please go and reach out to these people who are new, and you can tell the ones who are new. They're the ones who are pretending that they need to look at something on their phone because they're too afraid to talk to people. Go up to them and say hello. Um, if we have the social group, the WhatsApp group, which I'm sure we will have again,
Mm-hmm.
go in there and talk to people, have a look at people's profiles, maybe look, select a couple of photographs and think, oh, okay, maybe I'll go and talk to them because they seem a little bit friendlier, and then approach them. So, that's what we can do as newbies. What I've done in the past, the first conference I went to when I came back to the UK in 2016. So I lived in Australia for 6 years, came back to the UK in 2016, decided to go to a conference in San Diego. And I went on Twitter to see if anyone was going. I searched on the hashtag. Fortunately, I found a few people and I got into a conversation with them. So this is all online. And one of my friends, who is my dearest friend now, I said, what are the chances of us meeting up? And he said, well, there's 5,000 people attending that conference making, but let's see what happens. And lo and behold, I actually saw him on day 2 and I went up to him, I went, Tim. So because we'd had that conversation online before, it enabled me it gave me permission to actually go up to him and say hello in for real when I met him in person.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't have that conversation before, then I probably would have been too shy to approach him. He'd have probably thought I was a bit of a stalky pants, bit of a weirdo for saying hello. So that's something else that you can do as well as a newbie. Maybe try and connect with someone a few days before, because we will be talking about MarTech Fest across the socials. So search on the hashtag or search for the company,
Yeah.
and see who's talking about it. Maybe have a bit of an online conversation before, go into their DMs and maybe arrange to catch up with them when you arrive, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people at conferences, like, it's just a real mixture of people you wouldn't have bumped into in your daily life normally.
Absolutely.
It's a great opportunity to talk to people you normally wouldn't have talked to. And so you okay, so I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but you shared this great piece of advice at the table one night when we were sat down, and we were sat down with two introverts, natural introverts, and you said, well, I like to treat when I'm feeling a bit introverted, I'd like to treat my extroverted self as a separate person. And I put a hat on and I put lipstick on as like armor, or kind of like almost like a costume. And I thought, oh, that's a great piece of advice for people who kind of want to, be a different facet of themselves in a situation, a brand new situation. And whatever it is you need to do to kind of get into that headspace, then by all means do it. For me, I've moved around a lot. I lived in Japan, I lived in Australia, I lived in Singapore, and I've had to go through the experience of like being in a brand new situation. And I'm naturally an extrovert as well, and so I'm shameless. I will just go up to people and I'll be like, hi, I'm Naj. A lot of the time people look at me in despair. That's okay. I just move on to the next group of people. But most of the time at conference, and luckily at my tech fest, everyone was so happy to like talk to me, which was
Yeah.
great. So I'm one of those people that, like, if people are looking like a little bit like scared or feeling a bit like, oh, I don't know, I will probably be one of those people going up to you and being like, hello.
And at a conference you definitely need people like that. So
Yeah.
I instinctively knew that I wanted to approach someone because I could see that they were a little bit shy, a little bit scared. So
Mm-hmm.
I purposely went over to them and said hello. But as you quite rightly said, sometimes I am an introvert, and I do have those sort of moments where I just want to be by myself. But I am the same person in person as I am online as well. And but when we all have different versions of ourselves depending on who we meet. So when I'm in front of my mum and dad, I've been told not to laugh the way that I laugh, because it can get me into trouble. So therefore I don't laugh like that when I'm in front of mum and dad. When I'm
Mm.
away from mum and dad, like this and so on. So we all have different versions of ourselves, but we are all true to ourselves in those exact moments. So
Mm-hmm.
when we go to a conference, um, we also have a conference head on as well. And, regardless of, you don't have to put lippy on, you don't have to put a hat on, but just know that you do have perhaps a conference hat on,
Mm-hmm.
proverbial hat, and it's okay for you to come out of your little shell a
Mm.
little bit. It's okay because we're all in the same place.
Yeah.
It is a safe space. We're all learning, we're all networking, we're all getting to know each other. So, there's no need for you to feel scared and worried about what's going to happen, because we're all friendly people at conferences. We really are. But yeah, for those who are extroverts amongst us, please, be a bit more observant and see if there are any wallflowers, anybody who needs a little bit of help,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps reach out to them, because yeah, we all need that help a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I loved the energy there. Everyone was so friendly. Everyone was so warm and welcoming. Okay, so as a FOMO creator, what top tips would you give to event organizers for creating FOMO?
Hire the best, the number one, the original FOMO creator.
That's all you need to know.
That's
Mic
it.
drop.
Boom.
That's it. Yeah.
No, but seriously, if you don't, do have a chat to me, and I can definitely give you advice on that. But also, if you have a social media manager, they can definitely be a FOMO creator. They just need a little bit of training because it requires a little bit of thought. Just like, Naj, when you became an MC, you realized actually it's a different set of skills to be
Mm-hmm.
an MC because you have to be really present in the moment, but also think what needs to happen. You need to be really super aware. And as a FOMO creator, that's what you need to do. You need someone dedicated to create that social media content for you,
Mm-hmm.
um, and be super aware of the content that works, that will go out there. It's not the same as the content that you put out as a social media manager. I remember once, this was a couple of years ago actually, I was recommended to a conference. This lady had seen me speak, had seen me create content for create FOMO for this conference. So this particular conference, I tweeted 1,376 times. I also spoke twice. I did a lot of interviews, went on Facebook
Wow.
Lives for this client as well. So I was really, really good at what I was doing. So this lady
Naturally.
recommended me to a conference.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to the conference organizer, and she actually said to me, "It's okay, thanks. We don't need a FOMO creator. We've got a social media manager." Now, 2 years ago, I wasn't that confident. So because she raised that objection, I thought, well, okay, I'll leave it. I shouldn't have done, but I left it.
Mm-hmm.
And I I heard that the social media manager managed to tweet 5 times that day. Now, bearing in mind that I tweeted um, nearly 600 tweets for day one and then 600 tweets for day two. And they tweeted 5 times and they thought they did a good job. Well, it's not a good job. 5 tweets will disappear in a puff of smoke,
Mm-hmm.
because Twitter or X is so quick. I
Mm-hmm.
need someone dedicated to be able to do that and have the energy to be able to keep listening, keep thinking, what is that great content to push out there? What's the next thing that needs to work? How can you engage with people? How can you get people to engage on the hashtag?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of interviews would work well? What are the kind of people that would be really good to interview?
Mm.
You need a whole breadth and variety. You just can't choose particular ones. You need to be fair to all the sponsors. Are there any attendees that you want to draw attention to? Those are the kind of things that you need to be thinking on your feet all day, but you do need someone dedicated to do that. And they do need a special set of skills, which I can train you to be and
She's got
do.
it all. She's got it all. What can I say? She is the moment. Um yeah, I mean it is an incredible amount of attention and concentration to do what you need to do. And I thought it was great how you had like your kind of portable station and then you would kind of bring people to it and interview them. And I will say that like as a speaker and as an attendee who couldn't attend everybody's like talks as well, I really appreciated like this kind of running feed of like, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, oh, that's really interesting. So I think this kind of activity and event is really important. It's a really good part of the kind of ecosystem that you're creating an event. So yeah, so any friends out there who are creating any events, organizing any events, give her a shout. Um, so one last actionable thing before we wrap things up: what top tips would you give to public speakers?
Oh, public speakers, gosh. I mean, you can create your own FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
And some speakers are doing it already, which is great. They'll get a graphic from the conference organizer. So they'll post it up there on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or wherever. Super excited to be speaking at this event. Okay. That's great, but it's not enough. Do more.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner who is seeking to network with some key stakeholders in the attendee space, or maybe wanting to speak with potential sponsors and so on, you can do a lot more work in the lead up to the event.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I call pre-FOMO. So, as a speaker, what you can do in the very least is not just talk about yourself, because, yes, I do want to hear about you as a speaker, but who do you want to hear? Are there any speakers that you'd be interested in listening
Yeah.
to? Are there any people that you want to talk to? And talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I was hired by Andrew Nelly course, to create live FOMO. So that's on the 3 days live. But I created my own FOMO in the lead up to it. This is pre FOMO. And what I did was I shared content from Festival of Email, MarTechFest. I looked at speakers and I shared their content across the socials. I looked at anyone who, thought I could be interesting and I shared their stuff. The film premiere, oh my goodness, there was an amazing trailer. I definitely shared that. So creating this content on your own channels, not just about you as a speaker, but with content from the organizers, other speakers, other conferences, share that into your community. That generates that big buzz and excitement as well. That's what you can do as a speaker. Now, that's pre FOMO. Live FOMO, then. Again, share the love. I mean, you've been hired to come and speak. That's such an honor. Why not give something back to the community? So, if you attended another talk, why don't you tweet? Why don't you create Instagram stories about some of the sessions that you've done? You don't need to do, 548 tweets a day, which is my sort of average for a conference. But even tweeting 3, 4, 5, or Instagram stories or whatever platform you're on, Snapchat if you're down with kids, TikTok, whatever, But if you do that, tag the conference organizer, MarTechFest, Festival of Email, or wherever you're speaking. Maybe tag some of the people that you want to draw attention to your piece of content. That's what you can do live at the event. And then, of course, as a speaker, post FOMO. So this is in case you missed it. Ever so proud and privileged to be a speaker. This is what I talked about, a little quick summary, or maybe a little quick summary of all the other speakers that you've learned from as well. And again, what that does is tells the world that you are a speaker. It tells the world that you are a generous speaker because you're sharing content about other people. And it tells the world that you are a really nice person as well. And we all want to be thought of as nice and kind. And so, these impressions are really, really important. First impressions really, really count. And so, if you're really generous out onto the socials, then people will remember that. So, don't just post about yourself as a speaker, share other content as well.
I mean, that's it. Like, I might drop on all of that. That's great. It's great advice. What can I say? Yes, and I think one more thing to add on to that. I think the genius thing about having all of this content about the event, you might think, oh, it's just gonna disappear after time because the event's over, whatever. But actually, it's stuff that the event organizers can dig up for the next year. Because with events, all people have to judge on whether they should go or not go is from the content from the last time or last few times the event was organized.
Absolutely.
And so it's evergreen, like it can be used again, you can reuse that content, no problem.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Like I think event organizers, if you're listening out there, really encourage a culture of creating content, not just from your own team, but also everyone who's at the event as well. Get that user generated content out there. Get a FOMO creator on the case. I think I know someone. So yeah. So well, my goodness. I mean, I am already missing the experience. I'm missing the energy, the loveliness of everyone. But we've just got to wait until next year. But in the meantime, we're going to wrap up this recap. Thank you so much for joining me, Making.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
So, for all of you who are feeling FOMO for the event that's already gone past, not to worry, we've got you covered. There's some of the content already up on YouTube on the Email Expert channel, links below. But you can also head on over to the MarTechFest website, watch all of the sessions on demand, and also watch the space for what's coming up next year. They're already planning it. They're already thinking about it. So, if we've done our jobs here today, recapping, providing FOMO, then why not get your tickets booked as soon as possible? But in the meantime, this has been Email Breakdown. I've been Nudge. She's been Making, and we're gonna say bye.